What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Guns N' Roses True Story, and today we're talking about the Guns N' Roses Greatest Hits album that came out in 2004. And so let's talk about the history of the album as well as the lead up to the album coming out. So as you guys know, around this time Axl was working on Chinese Democracy. It was supposed to be delivered a number of times before 2004, as early as 1999, and of course Axl didn't deliver on it. And in response to him not delivering Chinese Democracy, the record company said, you know what, we're going to put out a Guns N' Roses record. It may not be Chinese Democracy, but it's going to have the band's name on it and its songs. And they, sure enough, they put out a Greatest Hits album in March of 2004. Now, the actual Greatest Hits album had 14 songs in total. Most of the songs included songs from Appetite for Destruction. There was actually 3 songs from Appetite, 1 from GNR Lies, and then there was a total of 7 from the Illusions records, 2 from the Spaghetti Incident, and then the one-off track they did for the Interview with the Vampire soundtrack, which was the Rolling Stones cover, and the last recording that Guns N' Roses put out featuring Slash, Duff, and Axl. So we first started to hear rumblings of a Greatest Hits album in the fall of 2003. To be more specific, it was October of 2003, and Amazon.com had actually just listed the Guns N' Roses Greatest Hits album on there. Now, some people didn't know whether it was a Greatest Hits album or a Best of collection, and it featured the same track list that you guys saw earlier in my video. There was no alternate songs on the track list, and the album was originally slated to be released in November of 2003. So literally the day after the album leaked on Amazon, there was rumors it was canceled the following day, and then a few days later, Amazon ended up removing it from their website, but a few other websites still listed it on there. So the original release date was November 25th, 2003, and then it was pushed back to March 23rd of 2004. And even in the lead up to the album coming out, as early as February of 2004, there was tons of Guns N' Roses fans who were upset that Universal, who was a record label, was releasing the album without Axl's permission, and some fans even speculated that it was the record label's fault that Chinese Democracy was being held up and not Axl's fault. And then as we later found out, Slash, Duff, and Axl never actually approved the album being released. They never approved the track list or any of the artwork. In fact, fans online in February of 2004 started an online petition demanding new music instead of old songs, and they even flooded the office of Geffen Records senior executives with thousands of emails over a couple of weeks expressing their dissent. And it wasn't until February 19th of 2004 that Geffen Records actually issued a press release stating that they were going to release Greatest Hits. Up until that point, it was just speculated it was going to be released because it was starting to appear on all these different websites. There was also rumors at the time that prior to the album coming out, there was going to be several songs on the Greatest Hits album that were going to be remastered, including Welcome to the Jungle, Sweet Child of Mine, Patience, Paradise City, and their cover of the Rolling Stones song Sympathy for the Devil. And it's funny enough, the day that Guns N' Roses' Greatest Hits album was coming out, there was also going to be a Guns N' Roses tribute album released the same day called Bring You to Your Knees. And then in the run-up to the album being released, there were ads being taken out on MTV all across North America and Europe, and this is an ad that was seen in England. And the actual ads that showed up in Europe, it was basically just like a 30-second ad playing the intro to Sweet Child of Mine and notifying Guns N' Roses fans or viewers that there was going to be a Greatest Hits album coming out. About a week and a half before Greatest Hits came out, Guns N' Roses filed a lawsuit against Geffen Records to halt the release of Greatest Hits. And basically, according to the lawsuit, it was filed by Axl Rose and his former bandmates Slash and Duff Mckagan, who were in Velvet Revolver at the time. So Guns N' Roses claim that, and Slash and Duff claim that they had not been given the opportunity to approve the choice of songs, the artwork, release date, or the remastering done on the tracks included in this compilation. And eventually, Guns N' Roses actually lost their lawsuit. The judge threw out their actual lawsuit and said it had no merit. Now, for the lawsuit, Slash and Duff and Axl did not speak face-to-face with each other. They spoke through managers and lawyers. And once the ruling came from the judge, Geffen was able to go actually release the album. Now, if you guys want to see the actual legal documents involved with the lawsuit that Guns N' Roses and Slash and Duff filed, I've linked to it down below. It's on a website called Guns N' Roses Revolution, so you guys can go check it out there. Now, this wasn't the only lawsuit that Guns N' Roses were involved in around this time. In July of 2004, Axl, along with Slash and Duff, also filed a lawsuit to stop Hollywood Rose from releasing an album of old demo tracks called Hollywood Rose: The Roots of Guns N' Roses, which promoted the album as early Guns N' Roses songs. In the suit, Axl argued that the album's release would cut into sales and promotion of the Guns N' Roses Greatest Hits album, which, ironically enough, Axl also tried to block in court a few months earlier. Again, they lost the court battle and the album was released. Also in May of 2004, Slash and Duff filed a lawsuit against Axl over rights to the old songs. In the suit, the former Gunner said Axl killed deals that would have put their songs in half a dozen movies, including Just Married, We Were Soldiers, Death to Smoochie, Old School, and Black Hawk Down. Now, on the actual album, there is some censorship on the compilation. So on the song Ain't It Fun, the C word is actually censored. And interestingly enough, the songwriting credits for the tracks on the Use Your Illusion albums have actually been changed to credit the entire band, while the original track listings credited the individual band members. So for example, November Rain was originally credited as Axl Rose's solo composition. However, on the Greatest Hits, the song is credited to the entire band, including Rose, Slash, Mckagan, and Stradlin. And strangely enough, even before the album released on March 23rd, there were some countries that actually got the Greatest Hits album a bit early. So for example, fans in Finland, Netherlands, Spain, and Ireland had already been able to buy the album a week or so before its scheduled release. And there's already some mistakes being found on the album when it came out. So in the liner notes of the album, Appetite is spelled Appetiti with an extra I. The songwriting credits list ex-band members' real names, including Jeffrey Isabelle as Izzy, Saul Hudson for Slash, and Michael Mckagan. Now, around this time, Duff and Slash were doing a lot of promotion for Velvet Revolver, and of course the issue of Greatest Hits came up, and when Duff was interviewed on a radio show called Virgin Radio Superstars, Duff said he didn't even know what songs were on the Greatest Hits album, and he would have picked different tracks if they had any input on it, and Slash would have made it a bit more provocative. Slash also discussed how the raw tracks of the Use Your Illusion album sounded better than the released version that happened on Greatest Hits. He also mentioned the same thing in his actual book, if you guys have read it. And one thing that was interesting is around this time, there was a lot of promotion for VR's first album, Contraband. Duff said that GNR's Greatest Hits record didn't affect Velvet Revolver's plans to put the record out, but a record company employee with RCA says it was the biggest reason that they postponed the release of Contraband. So Contraband came out in June of 2004, a couple months after the Greatest Hits album came out. And the same week that Contraband came out, it was number one on the Billboard charts. It sold about 256,000 copies. The same week it came out, the Guns N' Roses Greatest Hits album was at number 14. Now, when the album came out, it received, mostly positive reviews. There were some negative reviews, like Pitchfork Media gave it a 3.9 out of 10, Stylist gave it a D+, and BBC gave it a mixed review. Although Enemy.com gave it a 9 out of 10. Even though it had some positive reviews and sold really well, fans criticized the track listing, of course citing lack of some of the more popular songs and way too many covers as the main complaint. And as you guys can see here, these are the sales numbers for Greatest Hits. It went platinum in several countries. Even the week it came out in the US, it went to number 3 on the Billboard charts. Like, that's the week it debuted at. And that's really remarkable considering this album really had no marketing whatsoever or no promotion. Axl wasn't doing interviews. Slash and Duff weren't really promoting it, although it may have been helped by the fact that Slash and Duff were doing interviews around that time for Velvet Revolver, and a lot of Guns N' Roses questions were coming out. I think it was just coincidental that that had happened. And by 2012, Guns N' Roses' Greatest Hits album had sold over 5.3 million copies, just alone in the US, and the week that Guns N' Roses got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in March. Now, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony happens about a month before it's actually broadcast on live TV. So in March of 2012, it actually landed again at number 3 on the Billboard Hot 200 at number 3 with about 85,000 copies being sold, and it was largely in part due to the fact that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was in the news, and both Amazon and Google Play saw the album selling for only 25 cents for one day. So that does it for my look back at Guns N' Roses' Greatest Hits album. Let me know what you guys think of the album down below. My sense is, and my whole feeling on the album is, I'm not a huge fan of the album just because there's a lot of essential tracks that are basically missing. And sure, Greatest Hits refers to the songs that were the biggest hits on the charts, but to me, it's not a Guns N' Roses best of album by any means. And one of my friends who got into Guns N' Roses, he bought the Greatest Hits album thinking that, okay, these are all the good songs from Guns N' Roses, but, sure enough, it doesn't have It's So Easy or Mr. Brownstone or Rocket Queen or My Michelle or, a number of other songs, including Estranged. So comment down below, guys, let me know, and as always, make sure you subscribe for the latest Guns N' Roses news, and be sure to follow me on Twitter at Guns N' Roses Daily. I will follow you guys back.